Haunters, check out our new project. We got some different spell books going on here. I know you've seen our video before how we were making spell books with real books and then covering them with tissue paper like these and then painting them and putting some neat titles and bugs and spiders and stuff on there. What I needed was some really big books, and so I don't have any real books to cover and make spooky. So I took a piece of foam and I cut it like a book, and this was really easy. I took my hot wire foam cutter. I've got a long 8-inch one, and I was just lying it down and melting the foam and just lifting and putting it down and lifting and putting it down, and it made this kind of roughened up side of the foam piece that looks like paper to me. And of course I did it on all three sides. And then what I did was I took the edge of my foam cutter, excuse me, a frog, and I cut this edge part here, and then I just rounded the spine and sanded down a little bit, and there you go. There is a spell book. It doesn't look like much now, but once I paint it, it'll look like a book. And so I put a couple nicks and cuts in it, and then I'm experimenting with some colors. I have just some old paint that I've been mixing, and I've got some red, and I've got kind of a darkened reddish brown. And so these three I'm just painting just with the paint, and they're going to be just simple props, and I think I might put some titles on the spines and maybe some other details. We'll see. These had some holes in them, and so I'm experimenting with the same technique that we did the other spell books by putting glue over them and then putting the tissue paper over it, letting it dry so it looks like all crinkly. And so it's this piece of foam, but yet it's just being treated with the glue, and then I'll see if I like that better. I can always cover these with it, but these are going to be props on a shelf in a witch's hut from a distance, so I'm not going to go crazy with the details, but they are cut just like the other ones, and I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to paint over it and you know, give it like a title and stuff. So we'll have at least 5 really big books that I can prop up and use in different spots in our haunt this year. And so yeah, we're going to finish that up and have a lot of fun with that. And then we'll see what more we want to do. I do have a couple more books that the boys can make into a spell book like we did before, but these are fast, these are easy, and they were cheap too because I already had the foam pieces. So anyway, we'll show you what they look like when we're all finished. Hey Haunters, this is a project I'm working on today. This is going to be our spooky forest. It doesn't look like much, but it will turn into a bunch of trees, and we're going to recreate the scene in Snow White where she's running through the forest and getting all scared with the trees that are trying to grab her. So where we are so far is I have used a lot of this wire fencing that I had. If you recall, I made spooky trees before, and it's the same stuff. I bend them in a kind of a bent circle for a tree trunk, zip tied them together, and then I go through this process where I zip tie a bunch of PVC pipe, and then I build up the trunk and the branches with pretty much anything that I have. Like, I have these pool noodles, I have some carpet rolls, I have smaller, you know, tubes, cardboard tubes, just about anything I can find. Now these 4 here are the 4 from last year that I made, the smaller ones, and those were paper mache'd and then mudded over. You can see down here a hole that I have to repair. Instead of doing the paper mache this year though, I think I'm going to do just shrink wrap the whole thing, basically corpse it all, kind of like what I'm doing on this tree with this plastic. And I'm just going to plastic the whole thing and then mud it over So I want this really great texture. I really love this texture effect. So I'm going to do that, but I'm not going to do paper mache. I'm going to do the plastic instead. And basically just shrink wrap the whole thing so that it just tapers down to these smaller branches and make it kind of interesting. This branch over here is really cool. I love it. It just kind of bends and looks like a really gnarled like finger type of thing, and really scary. So I really like the effect. So I'm just go ahead and do that for all of it, and then I can build it up like here and make some bumps and make it kind of interesting. I tried to make the trees all different heights and sizes, keeping some lower branches of interest for like small children to see, and then having higher branches like these over here to make it more interesting and more like a forest. So that was what my intent was, and I think it's going to make it for an interesting scene in my front yard. What else can I tell you? So you can see the trees in the various stages. And right now I'm just going to take some black tablecloth, plastic tablecloth that I have, and I'm just going to wrap the whole thing. I was using the green one, but I thought, you know, why don't I make it easy on myself and just use the black? That way I can have some black, you know, recessed areas rather than having to go in with a brush later. And once I mud it over, if the black shows through, then all the better. I was just going to use this green because I had more of the green, but I think I'm going to do the black, and that way it'll help me out down the road. So that's where we are. Another thing about the branches is I tried to create some to where I can put some, you know, little birdies or spooky owl or something on there, something they can sit on. So try to keeping that in mind, and also keeping in mind that with the plastic, I can also have some branches hanging down, and you know, I don't even necessarily need the PVC pipe, so I can hang them down and make them spooky looking, some extra branches. One note, last year I did not screw in all the PVC connections with these smaller trees. That was a big mistake. Some of the branches just got too heavy or moved around, and they started to fall off. So I have rectified that. I have screwed, as you can see, I have screwed all the joints, all the breaks, every single one with these super strong screws, and they're not going to come apart. So I'm really happy about that. But that in mind, I still want to make these as light as possible, because if you recall my 3 spooky trees that Rona and I made a few years ago, those were awesome, but they were super big, super hard to move around, and they essentially kind of fell apart because I had to fit them through. You see that break over there under my awning? They would not fit through there, so I had to break all the roots and branches, then put them back together again, and it was just a disaster. So, and the other point of those was I had really no place to store them. They were just so big. So unfortunately we had to break them apart. Yes, very sad. Love those trees. I have some great footage of them if you want to see my videos before, but they are no more. We took them apart and we just reused all the parts to make these smaller trees, and I have a couple larger ones here, like this one's pretty wide. I'm going to make some faces on some of these, maybe paint them on or something like that, to get that effect again like we had the big spooky trees. But I can't make something that big again. I mean, they were basically as big as my tree here, my real tree here, and they were so difficult to move, and the paper mache in the center kind of got soggy, and it was just hard. It was really, really hard. If I had more room, I would have kept them and they would have been awesome, but I just can't. And I probably, if I would have kept them, I would have shrink wrapped them and then fixed them to last longer, but that's okay. We're starting over, same kind of technique, but I'm just going to use plastic instead of paper mache, and they should be still light enough to move and slip over. I just have them up on some rebars, how they're standing up, and these are really easy to keep and move around. So anyway, I will stop talking. I will get to work. I will show you my progress in a minute here, and then you can see how our spooky forest is developing. Okay, so my shrink wrapping project is finally finished. I'll be honest, this was a pain in the neck. It took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. I'm happy with the result, don't get me wrong. but I honestly thought this was going to go a lot faster. So I repaired the 4 here first, and then I started with the big ones. And as you can see, they're multiple colors because I ran out of black, then I ran out of green, then I ran out of red, I ran out of purple, and then I had to go to the blue. I had every tablecloth plastic roll I could find in the house, and I finally finished them. I don't know how many hours, I'm guessing 8-9 hours total for all of these. It was insane, but I finally got them done. Like I said, I'm pleased with the result. I think once I put the mud on them, they will look fantastic. But I just was hoping that it was going to go a lot faster, but that's okay. On to the next phase. I need to get this forest done. I feel a little behind now because this took so long. I need to get on to the projects. So I'm going to whip up some Monster Mud and I'm going to slather these guys. I just wanted to show you my shrink wrapping, corpsing craziness. I never did that before, and now I feel like I've done more than any haunter ever should have to do. So anyway, here they are. There's 14 total, and they're pretty cool, especially when they're all smashed together. They look like a real forest. So here goes the mudding, and then I'll show you guys that in a little bit. Okay, here's the status on the spooky forest. All the trees have been shrink wrapped like I showed before, and then yesterday I spray painted all the funky colors, and almost all of the trees got a level of spray paint black. So it hit all the funky colors, and it got that dark recessed color that I wanted in there. So now that they're dry, I'm going over with my brown paint. This one is mostly done except for the top. Oh, it's a little dark. Let me see if I can show you over here. I'm going with my brown paintbrush and I am dry painting it. And I hope you guys can see this because the texture, from the mud. I think I showed you guys the mud phase, but I didn't. I'm sorry about that, but I'll show you the mud in a second. The mud created this texture, and so by dry brushing over it, it's giving me that bark look, which is exactly what I wanted. This branch is going to be perfect to put like an owl or a crow on. Let me show you these over here. These didn't need as much black spray paint, so you can see the mud. Yeah, get over in the light here. It's kind of shadowy. But here's the mud effect. There's a mud. So I just basically took my fingers and, ran them down, kind of scratched the plastic and created the mud texture look. And then once that's dry, then you can go over and put some paint. I did black spray paint first, and then now I'm dry brushing with the brown. It's gonna look just like a tree in my opinion. So I'm gonna dry brush all these. Shouldn't take too long. And I will show you the next step. Alright, so here's our final spooky forest. I dry brushed the brown and made it look more like tree bark. And I think they look pretty cool. Look like a bunch of dead, scary trees. I'm playing with the idea of maybe putting some leaves on them. These are particularly my favorite. I love these short little ones. Like this one, I don't know what it is, but I think I just worked so hard on the shrink wrapping that I really liked how they came out. And there's some really cool branches, like I mentioned before, that we can hide some little crows and birds and stuff. But yeah, they're pretty cool. They're all different. They're all unique. And they're ready to go in the graveyard and forest next to the graveyard. And I wanted to put some faces on a couple of them, but that's only if I have some time. This project was fun but time consuming, and I need to move on to other things, so I will see if I can get some time to put some spooky faces on, and I'd probably use paper mache clay and try to do some faces on them, like noses and stuff, and then I can paint the little eyes and stuff like that. But for now, these are gonna just have to work, and they're gonna look pretty cool, I think. And so before I stop this vlog and upload it, I'll show you a couple other quick little things that we've been working on that I haven't mentioned. There's a cool little bucket that we made out of foam. It's gonna go in the dwarf's mine. It's pretty cool. Looks like wood, I think. We got some fake wood down there that we made out of foam. That's gonna be the entrance to the dwarf mine. Here's another one here. We got a lot of our witches stuff that you've seen before. Oh, here's the books. They're finished. I'm gonna move this skull, but you can see the one with the paper glued on, and then underneath is the one without. So that worked out nicely to be a nice display on the witch's table. We got our other books over here, which you've already seen, and I fixed the witch's cabinet with that middle shelf we didn't have before. This is just a cabinet that I found on the side of the road, funny enough, and put all our potion bottles in there that you've seen before. And one last thing is we made this table. It's gonna go in the witch's hut where we can set up some stuff on here. This is the other witch that I'm talking about, not the old hag from Snow White. But we got that done, and I stained it up, and I had to fix my donation box. It kind of fell apart, so I fixed it and I restained it. So anyway, there's a couple projects there. The boys and the family and I, we're gonna go down to Disneyland for our annual trip to Disneyland for the Halloween party. The boys are super excited, and we'll be back in a few days. So good luck, everyone, with your haunt projects, and we will see you soon. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, haunters. We're going to Disneyland tomorrow, so bring you with us.
Cool. Do you think they want to go too? Okay. Are we going to vlog it?
Yeah.
Do you want to vlog it? You want to do the camera?
Yeah. No, I want to do it. I haven't done it in a while.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Well, not right now. Once we get to Disneyland, then you can play with the camera, okay?
Okay.
All right. So we'll bring them along. We're real excited. We're going to do the Halloween party again like last year. And they have a lot more stuff this year, so we got more stuff to show you. They had a whole bunch of new stuff last year. Hang on. They had a whole bunch of new stuff last year, but they have more stuff this year. Okay, all right? So let's say goodbye one more time. All right. We'll check in with you soon.